While 2020 will be a year remembered for COVID-19, civil unrest, and the presidential election, it was also a big year for transportation projects right here in the northwest suburbs. Delane Cleveland takes a look at some of the most significant projects impacting our area.
2020 may have been the year of COVID, but it was also a year of transportation projects that will shape the northwest suburbs for years to come. In Brooklyn Park, crews completed work on a $30 million interchange at Highway 169 and 101st Avenue, aimed at stimulating more economic growth and handling the transportation needs that come with new businesses moving in.
We talked about it for years, and now it's done, and it's almost like a sense of relief that we've gotten another project out of the way. And especially in the case of this project, this is going to be such a boon for the businesses and for traffic up here in this area.
Also in Brooklyn Park, a stretch of Bottineau Boulevard between Brooklyn Boulevard and 83rd Avenue that had been closed since March reopened in late November. When it was all said and done, Hennepin County added lanes, new curbs, and new trails for pedestrians and bicyclists.
It's been a long spring and summer for the motorists, but we thank the people for their patience. And I think right now, with the road opened up, everybody can go back to normal, I guess.
Patience is apparently something that was lacking for drivers on a stretch of I-94 in Maple Grove, where crews resurfaced pavement on the eastbound side of the freeway and redirected traffic to the westbound side. MnDOT officials report that on a 9-mile stretch between Maple Grove and Rogers, 103 crashes occurred between July 1st and September 30th, many of which were the result of driving errors.
Driving to whatever work zone, including this one, you just need to drive with care, reduce your speed, pay attention, not follow too closely to the car in front of you.
That's not the only place where drivers weren't following the rules of the road. In Robbinsdale, Hennepin County shut down the southbound bridge along West Broadway Avenue due to continued violations of weight restrictions. All traffic was shifted to the northbound bridge and restriped to a single lane in each direction. The realignment will remain in place until the county replaces the bridges. Construction won't start on that project until spring. And speaking of realignment, the long-approved route of the Bottineau light rail line was scrapped this past August. The Metropolitan Council and the Corridor Management Committee concluded that they wouldn't be able to persuade BNSF Railway to sign off on a deal that would allow light rail trains to ride alongside 8 miles of freight trains.
There was a business rationale that BNSF has consistently said that co-location with transit does not benefit, in fact, it impedes their business strategy.
An alternate route to the Bottineau light rail project is still up in the air, but over the next 6 months or so, the Met Council and Hennepin County will look at various options. For the year in review on transportation, Delane Cleveland, CCX News.
Looking back and moving forward, Brooklyn Park Mayor Jeff Lundy is reflecting on his time in city office. Lundy says a lot has changed since the time he won a special election in 2011 to become Brooklyn Park Mayor. Sonia Goins had a chance to visit with the mayor, who is leaving that post to fill an elected county board seat.
Jeff Lundy was elected to the Brooklyn Park mayor's seat 10 years ago in a special election following the death of former mayor Steve Lampe. He won 2 terms since then. He prides himself on always being accessible to residents.
They could text me, they could call me, they could Facebook message me.
When he looks back on his tenure, Lundy says he's most proud of how the city has developed over time.
There was a lot of issues about community pride and people feeling like, they were embarrassed to live in Brooklyn Park.
Lundy took office at the tail end of the housing crisis and says it was one of the most challenging issues he's faced as mayor.
We were hardest hit of any city in Minnesota proportionally, the foreclosure crisis.
The top elected official says the city's now different. Brooklyn Park is growing. Major companies have moved their headquarters to the city, and more people choose to call Brooklyn Park home.
People are proud to live in Brooklyn Park. There's businesses coming there. Families living here. And so I think there's a different sense of who we are.
Police reform was also a top priority for Mayor Lundy, especially this summer after George Floyd died in the custody of Minneapolis police. Several community engagement events were held, but Lundy admits they weren't as successful as he would have liked.
We had lots of people come and get engaged, except for African American. We had immigrant communities, we had white, but we didn't get the key demographic.
Brooklyn Park recently hired the Wilder Research Group to study the police department and how the city could better improve relationships between law enforcement and residents of color. Lundy says it's important to address this issue with the city's large, diverse population.
20% of our city is foreign-born.
Lundy says although he will still represent Brooklyn Park residents in his new role as Hennepin County Commissioner for District 1, he will miss that day-to-day contact.
The county government is so much bigger, and some of that stuff you're just not engaged in people's lives directly because it's so much indirect.
Lundy will be sworn in as Hennepin County Commissioner in January. Sonia Goins, CCX News.
And finally, we would love to share New Year's wishes from students and families at Fair School at Pilgrim Lane. A teacher composed an original song called Wishing You a Happy New Year and invited students and families to participate. So we'll say Happy New Year and leave you with the voices from Fair School, Pilgrim Lane.
Winter time is here, it's the ending of the year. A year has been so unlike any other. And in this time of cheer, may our voices ring out clear and send this song of love around the world. We wish you peace, health, and happiness.
Happy New Year. I'm John Jacobson. The calendar has now turned to 2021, but we are taking one final look back at some of the top local prep stories from 2020, including one of a boys cross-country team that enjoyed a championship season.
The Armstrong boys cross-country team knew they might be pretty good this fall, but the Falcons didn't know how good their season would end up being.
Well, honestly, it's been by far the high point of 2020. I think for most of the kids on the team, it was really exciting. So it's the kids had a great season, and the season honestly just kept getting better and better as the season went on.
Armstrong easily won the Northwest Suburban Conference title, and then the next week won Section 6AA. The cross-country meets were different in 2020. At the Section 6AA race, Armstrong was not even racing in the same pod as the top 4 seeded teams. But in the end, their times were not only good enough to win their pod, but to win the whole meet.
After the race had finished, I looked at my assistant coaches and I just said, guys, we're going to stick around for a little bit here. We're not going to load the buses quite yet. We've been in Section 6 for a long time, and we've had teams that were ranked far better than we were come into the section and get left behind. So we came into it just wanting to make the best situation out of our season, and the kids just threw down.
The section title was the first for the Falcons program since 2006, when they competed in Section 5AA. The Falcons runners pushed themselves hard, and in the end were rewarded for their hard work in a most unconventional of seasons.
It was pretty special. I would say that. I mean, it was a pretty special group of kids, and honestly, this was the cross country was the high point for all of us during the entire season. You know, the kids got a chance to socialize and got a chance to hang out with the people they really cared about on the team, and we as coaches really care about them too. And we were all glad to get out of the house. So that was pretty nice for everybody.
There wasn't a 2020 state tournament for boys basketball teams. As Jay Wilcox reports in this Year in Review story, one local team did get to end on a high note.
In this CCX Sports Year in Review story, a memorable night of basketball. It seems like a lifetime ago now. March 12th, and what turned out to be the final night of the winter high school sports season as Maple Grove squared off with Buffalo for the Section 8 4A boys basketball title. Rumors were flying about whether COVID-19's arrival would shut the season down. For one more night, it was game on before a packed house. Maple Grove jumped out to a 5-0 lead, and the margin grew to 12 at 24-12 as the Crimson controlled much of the first half. They led by 8 at halftime. But the Bison looked like a different team in the second half. They chipped away at the Crimson lead and surged ahead 38-36 on a three by their star Matt Willard. Then Willard's driving layup pushed Buffalo's lead to 5 as the Bison seemed to take control of the game. It was back and forth down the stretch. Rashawn Parker's layup for Maple Grove tied the score at 46-all. Willard hit 3 more of his game-high 30 to put the Bison back in front 49-46. Maple Grove's turn as Lavelle Williams with a 3 from the top of the key evens it up at 49-49. Down by 1, it's Parker coming through with the biggest of many big shots, hitting a 3 to give the Crimson a 54-52 lead in the final minute. Buffalo gets a couple of late chances, but Maple Grove holds on for a 54-52 win.
Before, my coach he believed in me, so when he told me to take the shot, I took the shot.
Yeah, it would be a lot different. The energy the fans provide is just crazy, insane. It gets us going and keeps us fueled up.
Yeah, we talked about it coming out of the game. We were like, win or lose, this could be our last, so leave everything out on the court. And so we won, and now whatever comes, comes.
The state tournament was canceled the next day, but it was a memorable ending to the season for Maple Grove, Buffalo, and all of the fans. Jay Wilcox, CCX Sports.